Can you talk about a little bit about the differences of like what traditional experience with a lawyer is? Because I've been through that, trying to estate plan with a traditional lawyer versus what people could expect with you guys.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, the reasons estate plans fail is there are some traditional methods that don't work anymore. And so I actually went through this with my own family. So when my grandmother passed away, her estate plan failed, and I was in college at the time, so I didn't know what I know now.
Sure.
And when I became a lawyer, I looked into it, and I thought that law firm had committed malpractice, but I found out what they did is actually very common practice. So everything about our firm is really set up to make sure what happened to my family doesn't happen to anyone else. Yeah. And so one of the big reasons her plan didn't work is because she set up a trust, but none of her assets were ever put in the trust, which is called funding the trust. Okay. So a lot of law firms just end in that process. They say, okay, we've created this, you go do all the work. And for, everyday people who aren't familiar with laws and are very busy, they don't understand what that means. And so they're not really incentivized to then call the firm because they're going to get like a $300 an hour rate when they call. Yeah. So how I
always hesitate to call a lawyer. It's like, all right, can I afford this month to even talk to this lawyer and ask these questions?
Yeah. So we've kind of flipped that model, right?
Action. Hey, I'm Matthew Moore with Future Fox, and we've got a podcast because that's what the world needs, is another podcast. You're welcome. What we're trying to do is just highlight entrepreneurs and business owners here in Colorado. We're really excited to be able to spotlight businesses in our community that are doing great things, providing unique experiences and services, and just giving back to the communities. So that's what our podcast is about. Thanks for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. And say your middle name or your last name is Maass Garrett?
Yeah, Pamela Maass Garrett.
Maass Garrett. Okay. I wasn't exactly sure how to say that, but Pamela Maass Garrett, owner and CEO of Law Mother.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you guys offer like a modern approach to the practice of law. Law Mother is dedicated to the modern family, helping to protect their children and assets while building a legacy and creating wealth. I read a lot about your business, and I thought that sentence was like the perfect encapsulation of kind of everything that I read.
Yeah.
A good summary of what you guys do. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit on like the services that you guys provide and maybe what you specialize in?
Yeah, so we help parents and business owners protect what matters most. So we do wills, trusts, asset protection, and kids protection planning. So, a lot of people don't realize that if you have no plan in place, you have the default plan, which is the state's plan for you. And for most people, that isn't something that they want, right? So governments get involved when something happens to you. It's going to cost a lot of money, cost a lot of time. And so we do planning ahead to make sure your wishes are honored and your family is protected.
What is the typical state plan then? What do they do in a standard situation?
Yeah. So if you have no estate plan in place and you pass away, it goes through probate court. And so probate court is often described as a lawsuit against yourself for the benefit of your creditors. That sounds fun, right?
Yeah. Yay.
So on average, it takes between 9 months to 2 years. A judge, a stranger, is getting involved and making all the decisions, and that person may decide something you would never want. So if you pass away and you have minor children, then this is often how kids end up in foster care because people don't have plans in place of where they'll go. Or a lot of times relatives come forward and then a judge is going to make the decision based on their decisions on who should raise your kids, not what you want. And then when you have adult children, a lot of times assets get lost in the probate process. Homes get foreclosed on. People lose the family assets because there was no plan in place, unfortunately.
You probably see that way too often.
Unfortunately, yes. But the nice thing about what I do is I get to help people prepare to avoid that. So,
and you said that you started off as like a DDA, right? And you kind of saw this problem, and that is how you got into this?
Yeah. So I started off my career as a deputy district attorney, and I loved being in court every day. I loved helping serve families. And I just saw when tragedy happened, the unexpected happened. I saw kids end up in foster care. I saw parents wishes not.
So you were on the state side of this.
I was, and I normally was involved in the criminal case. So when a car accident would happen, and I would see what would happen, or when a crime would happen, an unexpected crime, and parents would die, I would see what happened to their kids in the probate process.
Gotcha. And so what you saw was not good.
It's not good. Yeah. And so then I went into private practice and worked on the litigation side, where spent some of my career on the insurance defense side, where I represented developers and builders and subcontractors in lawsuits. And then I went on the plaintiff side and helped, everyday people. And then after spending 10 years litigating, I'm like, I'm going to take all this litigation experience and help people plan in a way to really protect their loved ones and avoid litigation.
Yeah. And so with that experience, it seems like you have really set your firm up, Law Mother, to do things differently. Can you talk about a little bit about the differences of like what traditional experience with a lawyer is? Because I've been through that, trying to estate plan with a traditional lawyer versus what people could expect with you guys.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, the reasons estate plans fail is there are some traditional methods that don't work anymore. And so I actually went through this with my own family. So when my grandmother passed away, her estate plan failed, and I was in college at the time, so I didn't know what I know now.
Sure.
And when I became a lawyer, I looked into it, and I thought that law firm had committed malpractice, but I found out what they did is actually very common practice. So everything about our firm is really set up to make sure what happened to my family doesn't happen to anyone else. Yeah. And so one of the big reasons her plan didn't work is because she set up a trust, but none of her assets were ever put in the trust, which is called funding the trust. Okay. So a lot of law firms just end in that process. They say, okay, we've created this, you go do all the work. And for, everyday people who aren't familiar with laws and are very busy, they don't understand what that means. And so they're not really incentivized to then call the firm, because they're going to get like a $300 an hour rate when they call. Yeah. So how I
always hesitate to call a lawyer. It's like, all right, can I afford this month to even talk to this lawyer and ask these questions?
Yeah. So we've kind of flipped that model, right? So we do everything flat fee, agreed to in advance, so there's no surprises. And it incentivizes people to call us because we want their plan to work. Yeah. So we have a 3-step process. The first step is kind of that design portion. The second part is our signing. And then we have a third step where we're making sure that everything is in the trust, that people are doing everything correctly. And we give unlimited guidance and support. So people can call our office if they have questions, and we're here to support them. And part of the reason we've done that is I've been able to build out an entire team, train the people. They're all amazing. And so they can answer the questions or get me involved and loop me in. And then we have those systems and processes in place to support people. And then the other reason plans fail is people put them in place right away, and then they sit them on the shelf and they never get back to them. And so how we've solved that is we actually want to check in with people at least every 3 years. So we do regular check-ins with our clients that are included, where we're checking in with them to make sure everything's kept up to date. And then we have affordable membership programs for people who want unlimited changes to their plan in a year.
Okay. And what's the time frame? So when someone comes to you and wants to start the process, you said there's 3 different phases. How far apart are those?
Yeah. So like in most situations, we do between 4 to 6 weeks apart. So the first meeting, then their plan is in effect and signed 4 to 6 weeks later. Right. Then we usually have a final meeting 4 to 6 weeks later. Okay. And then we could adjust that timeline based on people's needs.
Like so 3 to 5 month process.
Yeah. So some people who want it very expedited, we can expedite it. And sometimes people want more time and we can push it out. But usually they're signing their documents within 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. What happened with us with our estate planning was called someone and, I scheduled something, and then we did a phone call, but I had to go out of town. So my wife was on it. Like, well, let's reschedule it again for that. And then it just like fizzled. They sent us a packet and then it just fizzled out. Nothing ever happened. They never followed up with us. We got busy. We moved from Austin to Denver, and it just, nothing ever happened. That was it. We were real excited about it. And like, we're like, yeah, we need to do this. It was right after our 3rd kid was born. Like, we need to change our will and get an estate plan. We finally had assets, it was like, oh, we're in the black actually, finally, in our late 30s. So, so is that a misconception that you see a lot with people, like that you need to have like a certain amount of assets before you even start to estate plan?
Yeah, so there's no specific threshold of assets you need before you need to do estate planning. It really is for everyone. Just the strategy or what you're going to do is going to depend on your specific needs, right? So, for someone that is 18, right?
Yeah.
It's going to look a lot different than someone like you who has children and owns a business and needs to protect and has higher stakes. So, estate planning isn't this exclusive club only for multimillionaires. It really is for everyone.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for someone who is 18 or they're in college? Like what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of my clients have 18-year-olds and they don't realize that once their child hits 18, whether it's their senior year of high school or their freshman year of college, that once that happens, they aren't the medical power of attorney. They're not the financial durable power of attorney if there was something like an accident that happened, right? They're not going to be able to get access to the medical records. They're not going to be able to handle the financial affairs. So for all of our clients that we call it our teen plan or college plan, we always include that where we're making sure that the 18-year-old is at least getting in place financial durable power of attorney and medical power of attorney, so that if there was an accident, especially for kiddos that are in another state,
right.
Things happen. And so being able to step in and help.
Parents need to be able to help them in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, and it's ultimately up to the 18-year-old, right? So if they don't want it to be their parents, then they get to designate who it is, right? But
you probably see situations like that too.
Yeah, and I think for 18, I think it's just kind of that basic. Obviously, if you have assets, then you'd want to do a little bit more, but at least getting kind of that foundation in place.
Yeah, and then when's the next milestone in life that really shifts and people need to be thinking about the next phase?
Yeah, I think marriage.
Yeah. Okay.
Marriage and children are typically, I do have plenty of clients that are single and have no kids.
I think people are getting married later in life and they're getting careers and they're starting to, build wealth before they get married. So they probably need some sort of plan as well, right?
Yeah. I have plenty of clients that are single who are unmarried or have children or don't have children. And so, yeah, it's that moment when you decide, hey, I really care about what happens. It's interesting. There's a recent statistic that estate planning is on the rise for millennials.
Okay.
And part of that is because millennials really grew up valuing, their impact on their community, valuing people besides their nuclear family because they grew up with more divorce. They grew up more in a society where they're not living close to family. They have a chosen family or their family, right?
Yeah.
And so for them, estate planning is more, it's not so much about how much money they have. It's about making sure that if they became incapacitated, that their best friend is going to be able to be at the hospital with them. And their best friend is going to be able to handle all of their affairs. So yeah, I would say the majority of people come to me after someone they know or love dies and they see how it goes. And then they're motivated to get a plan in place because they've seen something happen.
That's a bummer that it takes tragedy for that to happen, but at least there's some action on their part, right?
Yeah. Estate planning is one of those things that people tend to put off.
Yeah. Well, it's a long process. And I think people don't know, how much it's going to cost. It's like something that you've never done before, right?
Yeah.
And you have no frame of reference for it.
Yeah.
So I think I think you do a great job on your website and with your social media and stuff, kind of giving people a little bit of what to expect.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your book a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Legally Ever After. When did you write this book?
A few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's mostly about estate planning, setting your children up for success.
Yep. It's the 6-step plan to protecting your children's future and happiness.
Can you list the 6 or is it too?
I can.
Okay. Let's hear them. I want to hear.
So the 6 steps spells the word legacy.
Okay. Nice.
So
look at you.
L is for legal guardians.
Okay.
And that's really naming, if you're a parent with minor children, both short-term and long-term guardians. Short-term guardians are the people that live close by who could take care of your kids until your long-term guardians could come into the state, if your long-term guardians live out of state. So for you, you're new to Colorado, newish. And so if your long-term guardians are in Texas or wherever, there's this gap of time where your kiddos would have to be in government care. And so short-term guardians fill in that gap.
Okay.
People that live close by that could really take care of them.
Yeah.
E is for economic support. And I usually say the good first step for this is to grab a file folder and put the first page of all of your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, your life insurance accounts.
Okay.
You don't have to share that folder with anyone right now. You just need to let someone know where it is.
Okay.
So the story I share for that is one of my friends, her father passed away unexpectedly during the pandemic. He had nothing in place. So she had to go through all his mail, computer files, boxes, trying to figure out what assets he had. And that's how assets get lost, right?
Yeah.
And she's grieving. It's very time consuming. She's still not sure she has everything.
Yeah.
So that's one of the easiest ways to really just get started is to just grab a file folder, put everything in it and tell someone you know where it is.
Okay. Yeah. As people like get into the crypto space and stuff too and have assets there, like that stuff is gone, right?
Yeah. With crypto, there's some new tech that's going to be coming out to make it a little bit easier to pass on that information. But right now we do a crypto memo essentially where you're documenting everything that you have and letting someone you know where it is. But yeah, without that, it's just gone.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a new space. Have you dealt with that much at all?
Yeah, I would say a lot of my clients have some amount of money in crypto right now. So yeah.
Cool. Okay.
G is for guidance.
Okay.
And so when we start jobs, we have employee handbooks. Think of this as your parenting handbook. Like what would you want the guardians to know about your kids and what are your values around them? Do you want them to be involved in certain educational experiences or spiritual experiences? This can also include some of your wishes around your medical choices.
Okay.
A is asset protection. This is where we really get into wills and trusts and protecting the assets from your children's future creditors and divorces.
Gotcha. Or spouses.
Spouses, yep.
Yeah, okay.
C is carry through, communicate, and update. And that's where you really want to see this as something that's going to evolve over time.
Okay. Can you explain that more?
Yeah. So a lot of people do an estate plan and they feel like, hey, we're done. But you want to at least be keeping your asset inventory up to date every year. So nothing's being lost. And then after any life changes. So we check in with our clients at least every 3 years, but you just want to be checking in, making sure that everything's still relevant to your situation. So maybe you've listed certain people as guardians and in 5 years from now, you're like, I don't really like these people anymore. Or maybe there's a new...
Or they had 3 kids since then. You're like, I don't want to dump my 3 kids into their life. They're very busy and maybe there's someone else. Or like, I think we have ours set up as my parents and they're getting older. You know what I mean? So there may be a time where I wouldn't want them. Maybe I would want someone else who's younger and could, going to be around longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then Y is your legacy. And so how I describe this is, when you're gone, your kids are going to miss you. And they're not going to want to snuggle up with an estate planning binder to remember you. They're going to want to remember more about you, your insights, your values, and your stories.
Okay.
So one of my colleagues, her father passed away unexpectedly, and she just had a voicemail saying, call me back.
No.
And she listens to that voicemail almost every day. And how much more meaningful would it be if she had more to remember him by? But none of us really get around to doing that. So I recommend, especially around the holidays, recording grandparents giving advice, you recording yourself giving advice.
Yeah.
Since you're kind of in the video audio recording, but everyone can just pull out their iPhone, starting to really capture all those values and insights and stories in a way that's comfortable for you. In the book, I give an example of doing like a love letter to the people you love, but that's really going to make a difference. And that's your true legacy.
Yeah, love that. I've toyed around with the idea because we have a separate business that shoots weddings, and kind of a natural offshoot of that is to like create legacy videos where you go in and people later in life, at any point in life really, but tell the story of how your parents met, you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? And like tell all the stories and just get it into video format that can live online forever. So I love that. So the book is not just nuts and bolts of an estate planning. It's more like building your legacy from every aspect of it. It's very, very encompassing.
Yeah. And I think so the theme of it, because it's legally ever after, plays on the Cinderella story. We all remember the Cinderella story. And, it would have been different if her dad had put together a estate plan and she wouldn't have had to, be saved by a prince. So on the back, I kind of share, your kids and your spouse don't need a prince to come save the day. They need you to put together something that's going to protect them and have them understand your wishes.
be a preemptive prince, is what you're saying.
We all can be.
We can all be preemptive princes.
Yeah, we don't need a prince for a happily ever after. We can have a legally ever after.
That's great. And so where can people get the book? Amazon, I presume? Your website?
Yeah, you can buy it on Amazon, and then I give it the digital version for free on Instagram and Facebook. So
okay, perfect.
if you follow me at LawMotherCO, you can just DM me book, and I send you a free digital copy, or you can buy it on Amazon. And then we also have the audiobook version available as well.
Did you read it?
The audiobook?
Yeah.
Is it my voice?
Yeah.
No, I paid a voiceover actress.
Okay. Oh, you should have read it.
I know. Well, I thought about doing it, but it's just I found a voiceover actress that has, that it's a skill set.
Oh, for sure.
It's such an important skill set. So, yeah. No, you have a great voice, but yeah, it's a skill set. And I wanted it to be something that people wanted to listen to, and it was high quality. And so for me, I'm like, I'm just going to go. It wasn't a time thing. It was like wanting it to be professional.
Yeah. Because it's not a huge book. Looks like it's not intimidating.
Yeah. It's a very quick read, and every chapter has lots of stories.
I'll hold it up again.
Every chapter
zoom in.
Every chapter has lots of stories, and so my goal was to make both the audiobook and the actual hard copy book something busy parents could easily digest.
Yeah, that looks like 2 or 3 nights sitting by the fire.
I mean, I've had people read it on a plane.
Yeah, that's true too.
One plane flight.
I mean, I can't read that fast, but you're a lawyer. You probably read way faster than me. So my reading comprehension is not what it used to be, or probably what yours ever's was. So, Law Mother, you mentioned your team earlier. How big is your team now? Yeah,
so we have a team of 9.
I imagine it started with just you.
It did. It started with me.
In what year?
2019.
2019. Okay. And then, so just pre-pandemic, huh?
Yeah, just few months pre-pandemic.
Okay. And you said 10?
9.
9. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And but we're growing. We're hiring.
Oh, what are you hiring for right now?
More of like a client service person.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. And that's really nice because you guys have a lot going on. you guys are doing a lot. One of the things that you guys are doing really well is your social media. I got sucked into it earlier today, and I was like, I watched all the videos, like 30 minutes passed. I was like, dang, what am I doing? But it was so nice. It was like fun and very knowledgeable. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was like very, so what is your plan with the social media? Why did you start creating these reels and these TikToks?
Yeah. So, my first maternity leave when I first, so I started my business and got pregnant 6 months into starting my business. Okay. And it's a little bit hard to take a maternity leave as a business owner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit, right? And so my first maternity leave, I didn't get to take as much time off. So the second time around, I just had a baby 6 months ago. And so my goal was to make some videos so that people continued to send us clients. Mm-hmm. And I never expected them. So my first reel, that's the style that you're seeing, was 5 days after my son was born in May.
Wow.
And I was just trying to, estate the bigger vision. So that's my personal why. My personal why was I was motivated because I wanted to connect with people while I was gone and be able to have some time at home with my kiddo, but also have the people in our community know, hey, we're still open, even though I just had a baby.
Yeah.
And then the other reason I wanted to do it is because estate planning is so intimidating. And I wanted to make it more accessible. I wanted to make it funnier and light and educational. And so I thought if I could make videos that made people laugh and sneak in some education, it would help people.
And they're just so bite-sized, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I started making them in May. And the first one that I did 5 days after my son was born, I mean, I've been on social media for a long time and I've been doing content for a long time. So it wasn't like an overnight success because I've had many years of not having success and slow success. But that video was my worst video. I feel like I look really tired. I didn't have any makeup on.
5 days before
I had 5 days and I did this video and that one got 6 million views.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, why is that the
crazy.
One that has 6 million views? And so then when that one went viral, I'm like, well, I got to keep up with it to build the momentum. So every day I wake up, I'm on the 3 a.m. shift. We my husband and I split the shifts between us. So I'm on the 3 a.m. shift. So every morning during my maternity leave, I woke up and fed my baby, shot a video.
Yeah.
fed him, edited.
Are
and
you
then put
scripting them out, or are you just kind of know what you want to say?
Yeah, I script them out ahead of time, and then,
you have a lot of wigs.
Yeah, so that like was a later. So like I started doing them, and I would just like do filters with my hair.
Okay.
And my husband was like, I think it would be funnier with wigs.
It's hilarious.
And so then, so then I started getting more wigs, and then, and so then I made the goal of to just do every day for 6 months and kind of see what happened. And like by the second week, I had gone from, I think I was at like 50,000 to like 200,000 followers on Instagram. And then now I'm at over 800,000 and 600,000 on Facebook. So yeah.
That's so many.
Yeah. So it's been really good. It's been good to get the feedback and for it to respond to people. And for like, I get so many messages. One of the best messages I got the other day was I did this like video that I felt like was a little bit more vulnerable, where I was just kind of showcasing how hard it is as a parent to face your own mortality and the fear of leaving your kid behind. Like, and so many
to openly talk about that.
Yeah. And so many of my young mother clients, the process is so good for them, and I hold the space for them. But a lot of times they cry a little bit in the process because it's coming up for them. Like me asking them, okay, do you know what would happen if you die tomorrow? And they don't. And then we talk about it, and it's just like, it's really sad. And so I was trying to like, in one reel, I do that where it's like, the mom wants to plan, but it's too painful to plan. So I posted that, and I cried in it because I was actually thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like in the moment. And this woman reached out to me, and she said, my parents died and had no estate plan in place. And I've been so angry at them for so many years until I watched your video, and it made me realize that it must have just been very hard for them to face. And like, thank you for giving me the healing around that. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing that just like this 7-second reel was able to give her that other perspective. That's the power of social media, right?
And the power of authenticity. So good for you for putting that out there.
Yeah. And it was one of the videos I was like, I don't really want to, because as a lawyer, and especially a female lawyer, we're so programmed to show our strength and be strong and not show vulnerability. Yeah. And not show, crying or emotion. And so I'm like, I'm going to do this video. We'll see how it lands, with people.
Like, might delete later.
Yeah. So it's been really, I've been very honored and very grateful that it's, connected with people.
Yeah. What is specifically about it do you feel like resonates with people so much? Because it's obviously resonating with a lot of people. It's getting a ton of shares.
Yeah. I'm, so I started surveying my audience. I don't know if you're a data person.
No, I'm a creative, so I look at spreadsheets and my vision goes blurry, and I just go, I gotta go take a picture. Yeah,
so there's always two people. I feel like usually in my couples that I do estate planning with, there's like one analytical and one creative, and I have different parts.
My wife is a research professor.
Perfect, so she would love talking to me. Like I have spreadsheets.
Problem is she's really creative too. She's like as creative as so she just has both, and then I just have
the one.
Little bit of
just have the one.
Yeah.
So I started surveying my audience to really just get an understanding of what is helpful for them, what more content I can bring out. And I would say the number one thing that they share about the reason they haven't put together an estate plan is not knowing how to get started, not knowing the educational. And so I think that's a component of it. I think this topic is something that, in our culture, we don't talk a lot about death. Here in the United States, and it's something that prior generations, like if we look at the silent generation that raised the baby boomer generation, it was like, don't talk about money, don't talk about it.
Yep. Or emotions.
Yeah. And then the baby boomer generation was raised with that. And so like we still have a lot of that. So I think it's, peeling it back, giving content that is educational, relatable, and also, I try to make it pretty funny.
That's funny, yeah. Yeah, and you have a comedy background, like some improv.
Yeah.
It shows. It comes through.
Oh, good. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, should I tell people I have that background? Because my acting, is it better or not? Like, I think I have a low...
You don't seem like you have any experience.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Like, I think people have such a low bar for lawyers. It's easier for me to exceed that
bar. The funniest lawyer I know, for sure.
So, yeah. But yeah, so when I was in law school, I really wanted to be a trial lawyer and was interning at the DA's office. And I was just, really nervous public speaking, but I just really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So I started just taking improv classes with
a lot of people do like Toastmasters, right?
Yeah, I've done Toastmasters before, but I did improv just with the hopes that it would make me more comfortable with public speaking and also more comfortable with the improv side of court. Like when you're in court,
you don't know what they're going to say. Yeah.
You don't know what they're going to say. So you if you're an analytical person, you have to switch to being more creative and just respond in the moment. And so I thought I'd never thought I'd perform. I just started doing it, really just thinking it would help my skills. And then I loved it so much that I joined a team. And so like my first few years as a lawyer, by day, I was in trial every day. And at night and on the weekends, I would be doing improv on stage downtown Denver,
that's so
in
fun.
little improv groups. And then that's what got me into stand-up. So I started doing stand-up. And that's what, and I started
if you can do, I imagine doing stand-up comedy is more terrifying than talking in court.
Oh yeah, it was way more terrifying.
That's if you can do that, you can talk in court, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I by then things I had gotten better. Now I'm fine with public speaking and now I'm fine with
obviously.
But yeah. But yeah, it helped me get over that. No, my first stand-up show, I had been performing for many years and doing improv for many years. And my first stand-up show, I was the adrenaline and I felt
they're
like
way different, huh?
Yeah, I felt like I was gonna pass out. I literally was sitting there. I'm I had so much adrenaline. I thought I was gonna pass out. But then you say your first joke, and people laugh, and instantly you're oh, this is the best thing ever because you just get a wall of laughter and the energy. It's so much fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I would do, and then I did many years. I did stand up and improv, and there's still lawyers who I see who are when's your next stand-up show? And I'm well, now I'm kind of just doing
Put
it
that
on
pause.
now I'm just doing reels.
You want to go back to it though? Stand up at some point?
I don't know. We'll see. My goal, I love Ali Wong, and she did some shows pregnant, and my goal was when I was pregnant, I was I'm going to do a show, and then the pandemic hit, and so I don't know. I think the hard thing about stand-up is it's not super great for the lifestyle of a mom, because it's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, if that, maybe later.
Yeah, at a bar with all dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you got to wake up and estate plan for your clients the next morning. Yeah,
so but I love comedy writing, and so I get to scratch that by doing these reels. I write my little comedy bits for the reels, I guess is how it was. But maybe
That's
someday.
Fun. It comes through. So good job. Bravo. I got sucked in. It was very entertaining, really fun. Oh, and I felt like each one I kind of learned a little something or it reminded me of something that I was supposed to be doing that I should be doing as a father. So
good.
That was great. We talked earlier and I wanted to touch on this. There's a little bit of a barrier to estate planning. I feel like just from personal experience of not knowing how much it's going to cost, right? Is this going to cost me $300? Is it going to cost me $3,000? Is it going to cost me $30,000? How transparent are you? Can you be what should someone let's say a young couple, with a couple kids, what should they expect to pay? What's a reasonable price? I know it's probably different for every lawyer and every situation in different states, but what's a reasonable amount that they should be thinking about paying for their estate planning?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, obviously it depends. Sorry, I'm a lawyer, so I have to say that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not going to hold you. This isn't a court of law. I'm not going to hold you to this. But just ballpark, what should people expect to pay if someone's watching this and going I need to do an estate plan, but how much money do I need to set aside? That's, one of the biggest objections, right?
Yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to when people buy real estate and they work with a realtor. Mm-hmm. If working with a realtor to buy your real estate was valuable to you, then likely investing the money to do an estate plan right way to protect that real estate and all your assets is going to be valuable, right? Yeah. So when you purchase a home, you're paying that realtor a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for good reason.
Especially these days.
Yeah, but for good reason, right? They're helping you find the right property. They're doing all that. So I would say that's kind of the best analogy. The people that get confused are, working with a professional and setting up an estate plan is different than just creating a document online yourself.
Yeah.
Because the real value isn't the document. The real value is all the advice and the planning
and customizing
and customizing it and stuff like that. So I would say if people are on a budget and they don't own real estate, they're living paycheck to paycheck, then they might be a good fit for just doing something very basic online because they really can't afford more than that.
Sure.
But I would say once you're a homeowner, a business owner, you have some money put aside, I would say like a trust-based estate plan where the goal is to avoid probate court. Probate court on average is going to cost 5 to 9% of your estate.
Wow.
So for most like middle upper class families, that's going to be like it can be a 6-figure number. Mm-hmm. Whereas doing a trust ahead of time is going to be much smaller of a number. So I would say on average, it depends on the city you're in. I would say here in Colorado, I would say, anywhere between $5,000 and $8,000 for a quality estate plan that is going to avoid probate, protect your kids, all of that, and include a trust-based estate plan. Okay. I would say if you're looking for just like a will and a starter plan, maybe $2,000 to $4,000. But like usually I would say closer to for the trust-based estate plan, it's going to be more. And then anytime you're higher net worth and you're trying to minimize estate taxes, that's going to be we're going to be looking much higher than that. Like starting price.
If you're in that, you're probably not worried about it.
You're not probably, yeah.
You're not worried about the costs. Much.
And it's interesting because, I just helped a client the other day who works at Walmart. Mm-hmm. And she watched my webinar. She knew my prices coming into it. And I was like, I don't think she's going to want to spend this money. And she was like, I have the money set aside. I want to do it. Mm-hmm. For her, she had this dynamic. She owned a home. She had money set aside for retirement. Like she saved her money working at in Walmart her whole life. Sure. And she invested it and she did good, but she was more modest. Like she didn't have, spending the money was a big chunk of, for her, it made an impact. But for her dynamics and her family, she really wanted to make sure her kids were protected.
9%, almost 10% of it anyways, their probate's going to get it, right? So you might as well spend it how you want to spend it. Yeah. And do it the right way. Yeah. Right? Avoid probate.
Yeah. And for most people, spending a few $1,000s is a lot less than 9%.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what's the future? You said you're hiring someone else. Like, what's the future for a Law Mother look like? What are you guys doing over the next year, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah. So we serve families here in Colorado statewide. And then we're working on developing things to serve people more nationally. Mm-hmm. So right now,
is this something that came as a function of kind of blowing up on social media and just getting so much national attention?
Yeah. So because of that, I've been kind of trying to find ways to serve people and to serve people more nationally. And so we're in the works of putting
franchises.
We're in the works of putting it all together, but my first iteration, I have like when you download the free copy of the book, there's a little starter kit that comes up that you can purchase for $47 as of now.
Nice.
And it comes with the audiobook version. You get a digital dashboard where you can organize all your finances and your important information and share with people. And then I give you like a legacy interview checklist and legacy interview questions. And so we have that. And so I'm working on developing kind of more resources in the educational component for people. And then, trying to expand the firm in a way to be able to help people outside of Colorado.
How much hands-on actual estate planning are you still doing?
Yeah. So
it sounds like you're writing a lot and doing a lot of educational stuff and creating content. So
so right now I'm still doing, seeing a few clients each month. And I think I'll probably next year still see a few clients per month. And then I have some, amazing people on my team that see clients. I mean, I'm still in the background and
I think it's good to always have a toe in the water though. You know what I mean? If you're creating educational content and stuff like that, it's good it helps you keep up with the new trends and you know what I mean? Like what's new, the new laws and like actually practicing what you're teaching, even if it's just a little slice of it. 'Cause so many people I feel like end up teaching and moving into that space and they don't practice it anymore. Right. So, but I think it's really healthy and good to continue practicing for sure.
Yeah.
I know your team will continue obviously, but.
Yeah. And someone had told me like, don't hire mini me's, hire maxi me's, like people that are better than you. And so I feel like that's been my philosophy at my firm. I've always tried to hire people that are better than me and bring something really powerful to the table. So I've been really lucky that we have such a great team and
Cool.
people that are really committed and really do a great job.
Yeah, it sounds like. Well, why don't you tell people exactly where they can find you on your website and your social medias?
Yeah. So for people in Colorado, I would say head to lawmother.com. Follow me on Instagram at lawmotherco, or I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on TikTok, YouTube. I'm going to be building out the YouTube channel next year. That's another big goal, is to put more YouTube content out there. And then if you're outside of Colorado, I would say lawmotherco.com. I have a lot more national type resources on there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
That went by really fast.
Much.
That was great. Love hearing about that. And I'm inspired to revisit my own estate planning for sure now.
Deal.
I have to have a conversation with my wife tonight. So awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. If you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, or you know someone that is and would make a great guest, visit futurefoxmedia.com/podcast and fill out the guest form for us, please. Make sure to subscribe to the Future Fox podcast wherever you listen, and check out our YouTube channel where we'll be dropping new episodes every Wednesday. Probably, most likely. We're going to try really hard. Thanks.